let's talk about Treasure, another one of Lincoln's legends. At least it used to be after the Depression. This is the story of the hidden gold beneath Bierman's. The nearly lost legend I'm talking about is that somewhere underneath the Bierman's building, there's a stash of cash and gold that was hidden during the Great Depression. I'm not making this up. We'll do a reality check at the end, even though a lot of people don't know the story happened. I do use a little bit of creative license that doesn't necessarily reflect historic fact, but the legend really did exist a long time ago. And even the current owners who have heard of hundreds of strange stories about their new building, which are mostly ghost stories, had not heard of the treasure in their basement yet. Maybe. We'll get to that. So bring yourself back to the early 1900s, when the legend started. That spot was a hub for business. Picture people out front with a cup of coffee, talking with local folks. Maybe the customers are entering and exiting the building. Maybe you see a mom walking by with a stroller. Anyways, the Bierman's building had everything from dry goods to groceries to a drugstore. Currently, it's a pizza place, dance studio, and theater, so it really has had quite a history as far as businesses that went in there. However, it was Bierman's Lincoln Meat Market that was there the longest, and they were there for 41 years, and I think they left the biggest mark on the building. In fact, their name's still on the plaza across the street today. It really should be called the IOOF building. Historically, that's what's on the plaque. Let's just call it the Oddfellows building instead of Bierman's building because there is a Bierman's Plaza right next door. So we'll just keep things more accurate and start heading that direction. Anyways, when the Depression hit, Lincoln's Oddfellows building wasn't just a collection of shops. It was the heartbeat of downtown commerce. 3 merchants were on the first floor, which were Klinger's Groceries, Bierman's Meat Market, and Alexander's Pharmacy. That were there during the Depression from 1929 to 1945. Alexander's closed in 1945, so if the legend is true, they're the only ones who fit. The other 2 businesses remained open for quite some time. So when you bought your meat, you got it from Bierman's. When you got your medication, you got it from Alexander's, and when you got your groceries, you got it from Klinger. So you could really just go there and get everything, which gave all 3 together and, gave the building its reputation as the place where Lincoln folks went to go get their daily goods. So the building at 645 5th Street, across from what is now Bierman's Plaza, is the Oddfellows Hall, originally built in 1864. The lodge used the upper floor, while the ground floor housed various shops over the years. The Bierman family had been downtown merchants since the 1880s, and the Bierman's Meat Market later opened up, right there in the building in the early 20th century. The name had nothing to do with beer. The brewery didn't even come along until the early 2000s. I personally think we should start calling it the Rockstar Building now, though, It makes more sense being named after an old nightclub. Just kidding. That wasn't the kind of meat market. It was Bierman sold beef, pork, poultry, stuff like that. You could, however, go to Rockstar Dance, learn to be a bone shaker, and then go to as many nightclubs as you want, I suppose. At this point, I'm sure many of you are wondering what the heck I'm talking about. Gen Xers, we used to call nightclubs meat markets. So it's just an inside joke. Okay, seriously, here's legend. Here's how it goes. It's the early 1930s and the Great Depression just hit Lincoln, the same as it hit everywhere else. Businesses were folding, banks were closing, and people were hiding their money in coffee cans and mattresses. Right in the heart of downtown, inside what we now call the Bierman's building, there was a shopkeeper, whose name was John Alexander. He had the local pharmacy back in 1913, which is when he opened it. Back then things were booming, but even back then he really didn't trust banks at all, right? So owning a pharmacy, he's kind of depression proof, so the guy did all right even when things were when times were tough. And every night after locking the front door, he had a routine. So he'd count his till and put the stack of cash and sometimes gold coins from when people settled their bills for the month, they used to actually let people, they trusted people, oh my gosh, can you imagine that, to pay their bill. Anyways, folks said he'd stay up late by candlelight, counting, writing, then disappearing into the basement. Here's where the whispers start, right? So people say that he built himself a vault down there. Not like a fancy bank vault where steel doors and, it was really something more homemade and unsecured, right? Like a bricked up corner of the basement and sealed away in little canvas bags filled with coins and cash. So, that's the sort of thing we're talking about. Anyways, he vanished in 1945. And the one version of the story says he left town overnight, right? Not the one, but one of the versions of the story is that he left town overnight, boarding a train east and never coming back. But people question why he'd leave everything behind. It just doesn't make any sense, Another says that he got sick, very suddenly and died without ever telling a soul where his stash was hidden. Some say darker things, that he was robbed and buried out near Dottie Ravine, and his secret was taken with him. We just don't know. What we do know is this. No record of his gold ever turned up, and we can't even prove it existed in the first place. Years later, the building changed hands, businesses came and went, renovations were done, and workers started noticing strange things in the basement, like odd brick walls that didn't match the rest of the foundation, patches of mortar that looked newer than what would have been put in the 1800s. But nobody ever admitted to finding the stash. So, but now here's part of, the story that might renew a little bit of interest, right? Because the place was just, renovated again. So, the rumors about finding mismatching bricks and foundation during construction. If you know anybody who helped on the project around the year 2000, it would be great for you to chime in the comments, because I don't want to make any claims that, can't be backed up on that one. But anyways, that's the legend, is that there's a vault down there, which is basically just a bricked off corner he stashed his money. But here's what I do know from my personal experiences in the building, right? When I talked to one of the owners, Steve, he made it clear the basement door was locked and strictly off limits. And then when my crew and I did an initial walkthrough for a job, that's what he said. So he said it had to do with the elevator, but in hindsight, I kind of have to wonder. When I told the other owner, Dana, if she had any comments to pass along with this strange story episode, she replied that she never heard about it and that people shouldn't bring their shovels with them when they come by. So that's weird too. Makes you kind of wonder what they're up to over there, huh? Go in, find out for yourself. They'll probably tell you the same thing, that the basement is off limits and don't bring a shovel, Anyways, I'm just being a goofball. To be fair, one of my employees found a giant wad of $100 bills in the hole in the wall while I was working there. It turns out it was the previous owners and they were counterfeit, and, but it sure felt real. I believe they were used for poker games, so... the point being, it wouldn't be the first time money was found in the walls if they found something. So this video, or this photo, is what we really found near the second floor theater. I'm not saying the legend is true, and I trust the owners with my own daughter, but the thought did cross my mind for a half a second. What else are in those walls? Who knows? To this day, the Oddfellows building is still in local hands. It's a new pizza place / dance studio / theater. So it's got everything you want. You can go in there, learn dancing. Sometimes they're going to have shows upstairs. You can, do the pizza place, so there's all sorts of stuff you can do there. It's a lot of fun. They have an event center too. Anyways, it's owned by the same people who own the Rockstar Music Academy. So go down there, get some pizza, do some line dancing, whatever it may be. But they're one of our local neighbors too. So they're representing Lincoln Crossing like rock stars. So thanks, guys. So anyways, is it true? Maybe. Maybe it's just Lincoln's own version of the buried treasure folklore brought back to life. We don't know. But, if you think about it, the Depression was a time when people did bury their savings and hide it in walls or, put it in jars underneath the floorboards. So it really isn't that far-fetched, but again, there's no proof. It's just a rumor. Maybe the gold's still down there, though. You never know. Maybe it's sealed behind a wall that nobody's knocked down. Maybe it's someone's already found it and just kept it quiet. But anyways, fast forward a few decades, renovations happen, workers, tear up parts of the basement and start noticing strange things, odd bricks in the walls, patches and mortar that don't match the rest of the foundation. If you worked on the renovations, please post facts about what happened to the post, or if you know somebody, have them join the group and let us know. But if anything big was discovered, nobody admitted to it, so now is it true? I mean, is there gold hidden down there, Was it just a Depression era ghost story that, gave people hope that something for free was out there, with each retelling, I'm sure it's bent and twisted throughout the years, so really nobody knows. It's fun to tell. And that's the beauty of Lincoln's history. It's not just what's written down, it's what people pass along, with their neighbors. So the possibility that right beneath the Oddfellows building might be a few feet under your chair, there could be a fortune of gold and, and money sitting there. So anyways, I promised you a reality check. Here's what's historically true. The Oddfellows building dates back to 1864 and has long been a commercial hub in Lincoln. The businesses in the building at the time really existed at the time. Those are really the names. During the Great Depression, many people, distrusted banks and they hoarded valuables, including gold. It's documented right here in California and other states that happened. The pharmacist, John Alexander, did exist at the time and was the only one whose business closed at the right time in history for it to be based on that legend. So, if I were guessing and looking back, I would say, John Alexander, left overnight. So, but there is no reason to think that. Renovations at the old Lincoln building did reveal odd construction quirks, sealed rooms, mismatched foundations, though nothing was directly tied to the treasure, at the Oddfellows, But anyways, so there's also some legend and rumor, some things are not true or they just can't be proven, just general lore. So the story specific merchant hiding gold beneath the Oddfellows building or Bierman's Plaza is local lore. There's no record of his name or vault, having to do with anything to do with hidden treasure. The reports of sealed vaults and gold coins found are unverified. They're passed down through word of mouth. There is no evidence to say that the pharmacist John Alexander was the basis of the legend, but it does fit. Any claim that the treasure hunters, or especially workers, pocketed gold is just a rumor. I didn't even put it in here. So, it's fun to repeat, but, it's never been proven. But it's really important to know for the record, the Alexander family deserves nothing but high respect for their role in our community. Telling the story of the legend required some of them to be the center of the story, and they fit like a glove. So Alexander's Drugstore was open from 1916 to 1945. And yeah, that's about it. Thanks, guys.